Welcome to the Liverpool FC Journal. I'm OW James. This is your Liverpool news update on what is match day. Yes, Liverpool entertain Sunderland tonight at Anfield. Look, guys, it is going to be a tough game tonight. They are certainly no mugs, this Sunderland team, even though they are a newly promoted team. It certainly will be a tough test. 8:15 kickoff tonight. Look, we're going to talk a little bit of Arne Slot and how the pressure is very much still on the manager, according to numerous sources this morning. We're also going to talk a little bit around Florian Wirtz. We're going to talk a little bit around Mark Gahey with more news this morning. And again, conflicting reports, lots of conflicting reports over that. We'll have a little look also at our opponents tonight as well. Right, let's start off with that stuff about Arne Slot. Look, you know, I think we were all very, very relieved on Sunday when Liverpool got the 2-0 victory over West Ham at the City of London, or the London City, whatever that stadium, horrible stadium is called. Even West Ham fans themselves think that stadium is pretty damned hideous. Yes, they got the win. You know, let's look at the positives, and the performance was a hell of a lot better. Of course, it was. But look. Let's get a little bit of perspective on this, shall we? It was West Ham. West Ham are genuinely one of the worst teams in the Premier League right now. And, you know, West Ham are, even by their fans' own admissions, you know, in a real sticky situation this year. I think they won't go down just from the aspect that there are three genuinely worse teams than them this season. I think, obviously, you know, you look at Wolves, I think they're already gone. Leeds and Burnley are a whole lot worse than West Ham. So I think, you know, they may survive just on the grounds that everyone else is just that little bit bad. And look, Nuno Espirito Santo is a decent coach after all. He probably will know how to get that little bit of extra out of them to get that result. I mean, I do hope they do get a good result tonight, however, against Arsenal. However, look, you know, we look at this situation and you know, look, Liverpool did win that game 2-0. You know, there was encouragement from that performance. Obviously, Florian Wirtz was very good. I thought Alexander Isak took his goal exceptionally well. But the pressure is still very much on this man. You know, I think he realistically has to take 6 points from the next two games. I think, you know, if Sunderland were to come to Anfield and win tonight, you are looking at a situation where the pressure on him would be massive. Again, you know, the pressure would be right back on him. Liverpool obviously when lost, I think it was once out of the last 31 times at Anfield against Sunderland. And look, Sunderland are no mugs, and we'll talk a little bit about how they're no mugs in the video in a bit when we look at their Premier League results record. You know, they've spent an awful lot of money this year. They've got a very good manager. They're heading in the right direction as a football club. So, you know, fair play to them. But, you know, Liverpool should be winning this game. As defending Premier League champions, they should be winning this game. There is, you know, not even a debate on this one. And the fact we've got two newly promoted teams back-to-back, home and away, it should be 6 points. And any less than 6 points, and again, the pressure is very much on, and the questions will be asked. You know, I think if we were to come out tonight with another defeat, then again, the clamour for him to be sacked is going to be back on again. You know, there's got to be that perspective on this because, like I said, West Ham were not a very good team. They are a very poor side. So Arne Slot has a lot of pressure on him tonight, and he's got to get his selections right. He's got to get his tactics right. And he should be hopefully taking something from that game at the weekend and working with that game at the weekend. Now, it does remain to be seen, you know, how he works from the weekend. You know, does he push Joe Gomez back in again? You know, is he prepared to risk Joe twice in a short space of days? You know, look, I think you've almost got to be honest with you, if you want a solid defence, as I spoke about in the video the other day. You know, their left side is very dangerous with Lafay drifting out there, Mandava, Broby, is it? I think the guy's name is, or something like that, or Taibi, or somebody like that on the left-hand side. You know, they are pretty decent. So, you know, I think there is a need for Gomez to play, and I think, you know, if he pushes Szoboszlai out to right back or Curtis Jones out to right back, I think, you know, again, it will weaken the defence to some degree because that defence looked a whole lot more confident, a whole lot more solid with four proper defenders in the back four. The midfield, I think, as well, if you take Dom out of the midfield, it takes the energy away from the midfield. It takes the engine out of the midfield, and I think that is key. Again, tonight, you know, we need to see this man have a big role in that game. You know, he turned the corner, I believe, to some extent on Sunday against West Ham. And I think it would be negligent of Arne Slot to take him out of the team and to take him out of that role as being the main man. You know, Florian Wirtz has got to be coming away from this weekend with his confidence at an all-time high. He's got to be thinking of it as like, well, look, that was a good performance. I did really well in that game. You know, so he showed us what he is and the type of talent that he can become. You know, to take him out of the team now, I think would be a massive, massive mistake. And you've got to make him tonight, no matter who plays, the focal point of that team, and continue that run that he's been on. You know, I think, again, like I said, if he brings back in Salah and changes the tactics and everything goes through Mo Salah and it goes less through Florian Wirtz, do you then damage Florian Wirtz's confidence? You know, Mo Salah's here for 3 more games, and we've got to build a team that can get through the next few weeks without Mo Salah, whatever you think of Salah's form this season. So, to me, Florian Wirtz has to start. He has to play a big, big role tonight in this game if Liverpool are going to be successful and come away with the 3 points. You know, as I said, you know, this team, Sunderland, are no mugs whatsoever. You know, if you look at their last few games, so obviously these are their last 8 games they've played in the league. Now, they won 1-0 away at Forest. You know, Forest, obviously, never an easy place to go with Sean Dyche as the manager. They did lose 2-0 at Old Trafford to Manchester United, were substantially outplayed in that game. They beat Wolves 2-0. Well, that's no great shock. Everyone beats Wolves. They went to Stamford Bridge and won 2-1. You know, Stamford Bridge, as we know ourselves, we lost there, is a very tricky place to go. And that is a very good Chelsea team this year. They sit 3rd in the league. You know, Sunderland went there and they won 2-1. They drew 1-1 at home with Everton. They drew 2-2 with Arsenal. Again, a very good Arsenal team. An Arsenal team that had not conceded a lot of goals, had not struggled to get the victories, went to the Stadium of Light, drew 2-2. Now, look, at least the game at the Stadium of Light is not the Stadium of Light tonight. So, you know, that is a massive positive. But again, they got a result. You know, if you look at the fact they've played the top 2 of the top 3 and come away with 4 points from a possible 6, that shows you this team are no mug. They went to London and lost to Fulham. In the last game, they fought back to win 3-2 against Bournemouth. Were fortunate, by all accounts, to win that game. They sit in 6th place in the Premier League. Their last 5 form is pretty decent. You know, they've only lost 1 of their last 5. That game, obviously, was that defeat to Fulham, which I think was a bit of a surprise. You know, they're no mugs. They're a good side. Their team that they played in the last game was Roufs in goal. Mueki, Ballard, Alderete and Mandrava, Siddiqui, Granit Xhaka, the former Arsenal player, again someone who'll bring some grit and experience to their team tonight. Traore, Lefay, who is very highly thought of, a very up-and-coming French talent. Taibi and Wilson Isidore, who is apparently a very good centre-forward from what I've heard. So, you know, this is a team that will come here tonight. And I think, you know, they're not going to come here, I don't think, with any sort of aspiration of thinking we're coming here to make up the numbers. They're going to come, you know, given what they've done this season, with the aspiration of getting something from tonight's game, whether that be a win or a draw. So they'll be all up for it. They'll be in for it. And I think Liverpool are going to have to fight hard and battle hard to get those points. And, you know, this is going to be a big test of how much of a turning point Sunday was. You know, I think if Liverpool have truly turned the corner from Sunday, you will see a good quality performance tonight and you'll see a victory tonight, because the talent that we have will outclass that talent. It's standard. But I think a lot depends on what Arne Slot picks and how Arne Slot picks the team for tonight's game. And I think, you know, if you look, like I said, if you look back across our results record with Sunderland, we've been 160 times, we've won 76 out of the 160, slightly less than 50%, weirdly. But, you know, in terms of our record at Anfield against them, you know, if we go back, we have a little look at that for a minute. I'm going to just use Transfer Market to search that up, guys, for you. You know, look, our record at Anfield against them, we've played them 80 times at Anfield. We've won 41 of 80, 17 wins for them, 22 draws. You know, you go back and look at the last few results at Anfield against Sunderland. 2-0. There was a 2-2 draw back in 2016, a 0-0, a 2-1, 3-0, Liverpool 1-1, 2-2. So there's been draws mixed in there. 3-0, 2-0, 3-0, 1-0, 0-0, 1-0. You've got to go back to the old First Division for Sunderland's last win at Anfield, which was in 1983. I mean, Jesus Christ, that's going back away to 1983. 1-0 the scoreline that day. They were 16th. We were 6th that day. The team for Liverpool that day was Bruce Grobbelaar, Alan Hansen, Mark Lawrenson, Alan Kennedy, Steve Nicol, Graham Souness, Craig Johnston, Sammy Lee, Kenny Dalglish, Michael Robinson and Ian Rush. I mean, no mugs. Their team that day, Chris Turner, Ian Atkins, Gordon Chisholm, Sean Elliott, Barry Venison, Mark Proctor, Paul Bracewell, Nick Pickering, Leighton James, Gary Rowell and Colin West. I mean, it was a Gary Rowell penalty that won them the game that day. So you've got to go back a long, long way for their last victory. But, you know, they'll be kind of confident, I think, that maybe they could reverse that tonight and get the victory. Given Liverpool's recent form, especially the recent form at home, you know, the defeats to Forest and Eindhoven, for example. But, you know, you've got to be optimistic that hopefully Sunday was that turning point for Liverpool. It has to be taken as that turning point. It has to be a turning point. I think a lot depends on what Arne Slot does tonight, tactics and selection-wise. I hope that he sticks very much to the team that played on Sunday and that he uses a very similar sort of set of tactics. I think if we do that, we will stand a lot better chance of winning. I think if he reverts back to how we were, our tactics of old, and the same team of old, I think we will struggle tonight. I really genuinely do. I mean, personally, I wouldn't pick Mo Salah tonight. I'd keep the team as it is. The only change I'd maybe make is Andy Robertson in for Milos Kerkez. Apparently, the cramp that Kerkez and Isak have suffered, they've got over that. They will both be available. I think he'll pick Salah tonight. I do think he will start him. I think that's a mistake. I genuinely do think that is a big, big mistake. Look, it is what it is, guys. You know, look, I hope whatever happens tonight, whoever plays tonight, we go out there and we show that we are the champions of England, that we go and play like the champions of England, and we don't lose to this bunch. Right, a little bit of side news away from tonight's game and away from the pressure on Arne Slot around... where has he gone? I'm going to find him here. Around Mr. Mark Gahey. Arne Slot, obviously, apparently, according to some sources, will be backed in January with some funds. That goes against what has been reported in other sources. People are saying that, obviously, that Liverpool won't spend in January. Now, story that is going around today is not the most reliable of source in Team Talk, saying that Liverpool will submit a £25 to £30 million bid to test Palace's reserve in January to keep Gahey. Look, I think realistically, I actually think Gahey will stay at Palace for the rest of the season. I do think he'll become a Liverpool player. I think it will be next summer when he moves for free. I don't think it'll be in January. I do think there's a need to go and get another centre-back in January, who I don't think will be Gahey, because I don't think he wants to swap teams halfway through the season. Gahey, for me, is an absolute must for this team going forward. I think he is young, talented, definitely will future-proof this team at the centre-back position, and certainly someone that we do need to be looking at and do need to be bringing in. But I don't think it will happen till the summer, if I'm being honest. But I do think Liverpool, despite stories from The Athletic yesterday from Greg Evans, do need to move for a player in January, or players in January. Centre-back have been one of those top needs for me, no matter what happens with Ibu Konate, who appears to be trying to rebuild bridges with Liverpool's fans through his social media posts. Guys, check them out. Right, let me know your thoughts ahead of tonight, and obviously on Gahey and Konate. Thank you for watching Liverpool FC Journal. If you've enjoyed the content, please like, comment, share and subscribe. Catch you next time.